as I go through it.
Okay.
But I just thought we'd give it a shot and kind of see what happens. And
I love it.
so
That works.
I'll try
and
pretend that all you veteran coaches are newbies.
Exactly. I mean, we can be whoever you want. If you want some of us to be new, some of us to be old, if you want us to be coaching a specific sport, I mean, this is your workshop. So the only time you get to pick who the participants are in your workshop.
So I just kind of went through this and just assumed that everybody was at a variety of different stages of experience. The PCA workshops that I've been to is a broad range of experiences. So I just sort of put some thoughts together about that hopefully would, spark everybody's interest at some point.
Yeah, that's great. So what would happen?
Big stud national coaches can, get something out of this.
Yeah, well, we can. I mean, as I said, we can be anybody you want. So what would happen is usually the partner would introduce you. You'd have a little 3 or 4 line bio, and then they would turn it over and say, "Okay, let's hear it for Chris." So you can start in right away.
Terrific.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. Welcome everybody. Before we get started, hopefully everybody had a chance to sign in while you were getting donuts and coffee. If not, behind me on the board here on our PowerPoint presentation is our sign in. Please make sure you get out your cell phone and text that number up there on the board. Hashtag 12345, your name and your email to that number up there, and you should get an immediate response saying that you have been registered for this clinic or for this workshop, excuse me. If you don't know that that's a hashtag, welcome to the 21st century. Your kids are now laughing at you in the background. That is a great, powerful tool you can use on social media. If you're not on social media, I strongly suggest getting on it. It's a fantastic platform to really get the message out and to present yourself as a coach, present your program. It's a wonderful tool to communicate with the community. Why are you registering? Well, you're going to get, obviously, this little book here. Hopefully you guys picked up a copy as you came in. And you'll also get registered for email newsletter called Talking Points, which comes out. You'll get 6, I think. Is that right? Side note, is that right? 6?
Yep.
6 different emails.
Yes.
And they're filled with all sorts of different things. There's a great one that just came out about, oh, shoot. I just read it this morning. Skip it. We'll come back to that one. Yeah. All right. So hopefully you'll get registered and hopefully everybody's good to go. So before we jump in, let's get our seating chart. I'm a high school teacher. So if you would, please, if you haven't already done so, we've got these signs posted up around the little auditorium here. Please make sure that you find the sign appropriate to your level of experience. Okay, 10 plus years, okay, 6 to 10 years, okay, 0 to 5 years, everybody there. If not, feel free to get up, move around. You are not in the wrong classroom. You're just in the wrong spot. So just feel free to get up, move around. I see everybody's got a broad range of experiences, and which is fantastic. And we're going to hopefully touch a little bit on some things that everybody, regardless of your level of experience, can take away from today and can implement in their own programs. So is everybody comfortable? Mm-hmm. Okay, terrific, good. Now you're all comfortable. I want you to get up and move. I want you to go over and find somebody. You're going to work in groups of 3. Okay, and I want you to find somebody in the other 2 groups. So if you're a coach that's been working for 10 plus years, I want you to go over and find someone that's got 6 to 10 years of experience. I want you to go over and introduce yourself to someone with 0 to 5 years of experience. And I want you to sit in some sort of a group, if you will, row, whatever we've got. We want you guys to be able to share as we go through this. And hopefully we're going to try as best we can to make this interactive. Okay. So as I said, welcome. This is our Double Goal Coach workshop. The key word there is work. We are going to try and make this as interactive as possible. My old coach used to tell me that the only place work comes before play is in the dictionary. So we are going to try and get everybody working at this. And hopefully these are going to be tools that you can practice a little bit here and then take away and implement in your own programs. So first of all, I would like to thank everybody for being here. It's a tremendous honor to be able to talk to you about what I consider a vocation. It's certainly not an occupation. It's not just a mere volunteer gig. This is something that I truly believe can be the greatest development zone that you could possibly put your child into. We talk as coaches all the time. There's no better place to raise a child than in a gym. And we really embrace that responsibility. And hopefully, as you start your journey or as you continue your journey, you're going to embrace that as well. The Reverend Billy Graham said a coach will impact more lives in a year than the average person will in a lifetime. And we really take that to heart. And we really try, therefore, to create purposeful programs that are really going to benefit our kids well beyond the playing fields and the playing courts. So hopefully the objective today, I think, is relatively simple. You're going to hear a lot about toolkits and the different tools that we've put in our toolboxes, coaches. We want to be able to plant some seeds today that are going to act as a catalyst to act out in your community, out in your chosen sport, that's going to allow you to create an atmosphere in which kids can really grow. But it really is all about planting some seeds today and hopefully sparking some interest so that you will then go out and explore the tons of resources that PCA has for you, but also the coaching community in general. And we'll talk more about that as we go through as well. Oops, sorry, forgot to change this line. All right. Okay. So I love this one. Who is PCA? Well, I'm sure as soon as your organization told you that you had to be here, I'm sure you did same thing I did, which was Google PCA and find out what it's all about. If you're not already aware of what it is, there are some statistics on the board behind me. Okay, I will assume, okay, in this country, okay, up, down, left to right. Okay, it's called reading. Okay, I'm sure you guys can figure that out. But one of the things I wanted to touch upon as we start to talk about who is PCA, you can learn about Jim Thompson, you can learn about Stanford University, you can learn about all the wonderful coaches that are national board members, Phil Jackson, Brad Stevens, so on and so forth down the line. But at the end of the day, PCA is you. You guys are the tip of the spear. You guys are the ones that are out there on a day-to-day basis redefining what coaching is and what our youth sports culture is all about. And you're doing that one relationship at a time. There are some tremendous resources online that you can dig into and find out the history of how Jim came up with this model, of how Jim came up with this way of doing things, this culture of what youth sports should be about. But we really want to spend a lot of time today digging into what it means to be a coach and how can we, I think, radically change the way we approach youth sports in this country. And I never want you guys to forget that the greatest resource that you all have are the people that are sitting around you. The greatest learning experiences I've ever had as a coach were going to clinics, going to practices, going off and watching college teams play, going off and pulling videos off of the internet. There are no shortage of resources out there that are going to help you develop as a coach. And I strongly encourage everybody to take full advantage of that. I know as a coach, as a young coach, now as a coach that's been doing it for 26 years, anytime I've ever asked to attend a practice, a college coach has never said no. And this is a very generous and giving community. We are service leaders or servant leaders by definition. And I think that's very much true with our coaching colleagues. We love sharing. So please get out and take full advantage of this alliance that you're all a part of, this network that you're all now a part of. Okay, one of the things we're going to talk a lot about is obviously positive coaching. Okay, what does this phrase mean to you? I think it's extremely important to start off with a working definition of what any term means. Okay, how are we going to define it for the next hour and a half? So without further ado, okay, you've got some people around you that have different levels of experience. Okay, if you would just take 30 seconds or so and just kind of bounce some ideas off each other, brainstorm a little bit, and then I'll ask you guys to shout out what you came up with. Tick tock, tick tock. Do we have to wait 30 seconds or we just go?
No, you're good.
We're done.
Okay.
We're very advanced.
All right. So what did you guys come up with? What does it mean to you?
To me, it means a coach that's really cares about the kids and is supportive, keeps the kids accountable for their actions, but is just really just happy to be there and supporting the kids for the right reasons.
Terrific. Terrific. Ruben?
Yeah, we said coaching through encouragement and keeping the athlete's best interests in mind at all times.
It's interesting that we think of coaching as something that we're doing with a group, especially in a team setting. At the end of the day, if we can keep that individual athlete foremost in our minds, and how do we maximize that person's experience with what we're doing. It's amazing how that attitude then starts to trickle down to the rest of the team, and suddenly you've got a whole team that is really pulling in the same direction. So holding that individual athlete, I think, at the foremost of our thoughts is an extremely important piece of what positive coaching is all about. And I want you to remember too that positive coaching, at least for us here in our program, is a constantly evolving thing. So that we start with a working definition, but we're constantly talking to each other about what it means for this child, what does it mean for that child, how do we do better as a team. So we're always looking for more ways to add to what our definition means. As a matter of fact, we're sitting down with our staff. Our season just ended last week. We're sitting down with our staff on Monday to talk, debrief the season, and find out if we really did fulfill our definition. And we may or may not have come up short on that, but that's beside the point. All right. Right. We're looking to create an atmosphere, okay, that supports every player, okay, and the best possible performance. One of the things I think we get away from is understanding that we are competitive by nature. We do want to get out in there and win. We do want to put our best foot forward. We do want to represent our school and our program and our community in a really positive way. And this really is, at the end of the day, about how to maximize performance. And we'll touch more on that as we go along as well. Right. The power of positive. Okay. Love this quote from Dr. Fredrickson. Okay. I particularly like the bottom one where she's talking about emotions. Leaders' positive emotions are more contagious. There's a great book by John Gordon called The Energy Bus. And it talks all about how we are going to fill the tank, as we like to call it. We're going to learn more about that later. But John Gordon's book really focuses on keeping people around you that are going to provide positive energy and forward motion to what it is that you're doing, whether it's as a business leader, whether it's as a coach, whether it's as a player. And he talks a lot about energy vampires that kind of suck that energy out of us. And we want to try and avoid that at all costs. At the end of the day, what I think positive coaching really revolves around is much what you touched upon, Ruben, is creating, as Carol Dweck calls it, a growth mindset. This idea that we are constantly evolving as athletes, as leaders, as young people. I want people to be just insanely curious about how good they can be if they are really investing in a process that is positive, that is forward thinking, that is goal oriented. And something where they can look back on it and take a tremendous amount of joy at the amount of work they put in and at the growth that they experience through the whole process. This was an article back in 2015 from Sports Illustrated, The Last Days of the Abusive Coach, which 2015 was a while ago. So that may or may not be true. We'll talk about that in a second. But you might be looking at an example of one. I'm not quite sure. I'm still working on that one. One of the things I think is important. Let me see here. Can I do this? Now I'm trying to figure out technology. Okay, I think I'm going too fast. Yep. It's funny, I don't use PowerPoint anymore as a teacher. All right. So I think there's a tremendous amount of research out there that is supportive of what a positive coach is, or how he or she is going to go about her business. And the people on the board behind me, these are all members of our national board. They all agree. And I think if you really talk to a coach and sat him down, regardless of his or her style, okay, they would probably agree with you as well. The interesting thing, sorry. Let me back it up. Sorry. All right. So if all these coaches agree on what's going on, okay, and if all this research backs it up, these two gentlemen behind me, I actually have a master's degree in sports psychology. These two gentlemen behind me were some of the real pioneers in the field, especially Ken Ravizza, who recently passed away. He did some tremendous work with Major League Baseball teams. But these are the guys that really started to bring it into the team sports era, or into the team sports realm. Sports psychology had been used a lot, I think, in the individual sports, tennis and golf and so on and so forth. But as far as the team aspects of things, these two gentlemen really started to bring it to the forefront. And today we see this, all over Major League sports. So with all of this Let me see, back it up, distraction. Oh, okay. With all of this going, whoops, sorry. Did I cancel you? Oh, there we go.
No, we're
No, we're sorry.
All right, okay. Let's buzz through this. Okay, you got dogs and kids in the background too?
Oh, can you hear people in the background? Sorry.
That's all right.
I shut the door. It's not.
That's all right. That's all right. The question really is, okay, is do you agree that positive coaching is something that should be pursued and should be developed in our coaching ranks, especially at the youth level? And just a really quick show of hands. Okay? How many of you agree with that? Mm-hmm. All right. So we all agree. So my question then is, why is there so much negativity? Okay? Why are there articles about how parents behave, how coaches behave, the destructive effects of negative coaching on youth development? And why is it that there is so much negativity? And I would take 30 seconds, talk amongst yourselves. Yeah, but what do you guys think?
Ego, coach egos.
That's a good one.
Fear of what losing might mean to a coach.
Okay. Having to respond to all the social pressures. Yep.
Kelly's muted. Kelly muted.
Oh,
Sorry.
I don't mind listening to dogs.
I had a coach this week say to me, because it just damn works. That was his answer when I said, why is there so much negativity?
And one of the fascinating things, I think, and this is something that I've really struggled with myself as a coach. I think one of your other presenters used the term born again coach. This is something that really reached the critical mass for me about 4 or 5 years ago, where my behavior, the effects I was having on our program and our kids, and the goals that I had stated in my mind simply weren't lining up. And it became, very difficult for me because I had to sit down and really take a hard look at the way I was going about my business and whether or not I was really having the effect that I wanted to on kids. And it was, one of those cathartic moments. And it really did change my entire outlook, which is one of the reasons I really wanted to reach out to PCA and start doing all this stuff. But I don't disagree with that coach. And here's why, because in that moment, if I want a kid to do something, and I'm a relatively big guy with a deep voice, if I scream at them, they're going to do it to get me to stop them from screaming at them. They're going to be so scared that they're going to go out and they're going to throw the ball where I tell them to throw it, or box out where I tell them to box out. And unfortunately, too many coaches misconstrue that, misinterpret that in their own heads. It's like, I got to yell at Johnny to get him to do this on a consistent basis. What we don't understand is that the negative effects, the long-term negative effects that fear has on Johnny's play, on Johnny's growth, on Johnny's development as a player, on Johnny's confidence as he goes out into the world. There are so many things. It's like dropping a pebble in a pond. Okay? We take that moment where I screamed at him and he did what I told him to do, and it's over for us. But Johnny takes that home and he internalizes that, and it becomes a ripple effect that could have really detrimental effects on his entire process as a youth athlete. And at the end of the day, we all want to make sure that our kids are taking the same joy out of sports that we do. And if we take that joy from them through the use of negative coaching tactics, then we're like doctors that are doing harm versus exactly the opposite of what we want to try and do. So I think it's important to stress to everybody that while that negative may work in that split-second moment, what we're really trying to create is a long-term growth effect across an entire season. So how do we maximize that? Okay? We maximize that by teaching the right processes. How does Johnny go about processing that mistake? How do we teach him something different? What are our teaching tactics? It becomes a very it becomes something that's very, very much a reflection on who you are as a coach. And if we really want to invest in our kids, I think it's extremely important that we're willing to take that journey. So let's see here. All right. Okay. How do we go about doing this? Okay. If the idea is to develop a long-term growth model in our programs, in our teams, How is it that we're going to go about doing that? A lot of coaches simply don't have the toolbox necessary to develop that type of an atmosphere. Many of us, the way I started coaching, we rely on who coached us. What kinds of models did we have growing up as young athletes? And unfortunately, a lot of us grew up with that military style of coaching. So how are we going to go about teaching this toolbox to our coaches or to you guys? One of the things I think is extremely important, and I mentioned it earlier, is the number of resources available. Damn. There's a number of resources available to us. There's a tremendous amount of research in sports psychology. There's a tremendous amount of online things that we can do. There's a tremendous amount of now I'm looking at my shot clock.
Yeah.
Goes fast, doesn't it?
Like, damn. So, we want you guys to be able to get out there, and hopefully this is just a catalyst to do that, and done.
There you go.
So did you set your clock for 20 minutes? Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
yeah. It's sort of the goal-oriented coach in me that's like, all right, I got to finish by this amount of time.
And what you just did is what we've seen many trainers do. Oh, honoring the game, click, 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 done. Be nice to each other.
Funny because I was at a positive motivation talk. I think I mentioned it to you with Pam, and we got into a pretty good discussion about what positive motivation looks like and how it manifests in kids. And she did the same thing. She's like, "Oh my God, we got 5 minutes left." So she just went through like the last 15 slides or 10 slides or whatever it was. But
that was at a workshop with Pam Harith?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. You got to see Pam. Okay.
Yeah. Had a nice conversation with her afterwards. Yeah. And hopefully we're going to get a chance to grab some coffee and talk about some of the things that she's doing on her own with some of that leadership stuff that she's doing.
Yeah.
So Chris, let me ask you this question. At the end of the introduction, as a coach at your workshop, give me 2 things you want me to take out of just the introduction. Just 2.
That this is just a catalyst. That this is just a starting point from which you can't just leave here after 2 hours, 90 minutes and say, all right, I've got my certificate and I'm a positive coach, and go out and start changing the world or whatever. That it's a process that's continual. That this is 26 years for me, and I was at the workshop on Saturday with Pam and came away with 3 pages of notes. And it's something that can be constantly explored from all sorts of different angles and
okay. So this is the first step in the process.
Right.
That's a good thing. What's one more different, not about the process. What's one more thing you want me to take away with just from the intro? If the intro is all I had for this workshop and you weren't going to do anything else, what's one other thing you want me to take away from it?
We get so much joy out of doing what we do. There you go. There's nothing more satisfying than seeing a young person under your tutelage move from A to Z, or however far he gets down that alphabet. And
so you were saying, well, I'm interrupting on purpose. And you were saying that if you can see that kid continue on that process in a positive way, if you have the right tools, as Ken Revizza said, if you're positive, if you are a negative coach screaming, we just know that just won't work. You even talked about it. You talked about how the long-term benefits of negativity are just so detrimental. And so the joy for you is being able to see a player just progress all the way through. So this is the first step in the process. And ultimately, there's no greater joy than seeing an athlete work to his potential and just be who he's intended to be and just watch him grow and thrive. So that, to me, are the 2 most important things in the introduction. So all the slides that were kind of like, wait, what does that say? What does that say? What does that say? We want the intro slides to be supporting you in what you're saying. We don't want you to be supporting the slides.
Right.
So if a slide pops up and you've already mentioned, like that Sports Illustrated slide, I spent about 1 second on it. That next slide, I really do. I mean, it's up there. They can see it. I don't need to reread it. The Ken Revizza slide and Charlie Marr, about them because that's part of your background. I like how you said they're pioneers. That's important to me.
Right.
But when you get to like the how do we do it, you spend a lot of time on that like vision slide, boom, just bang it and go on. And I'm sure Ruben can say, like, there's been times where I just like skip right over it, or I'll just say, you know what, I've already explained that, so I'm not going to explain it again.
Right.
So the 20 minutes is so that you don't spend too much time on the intro, because the really important part of the workshop are the principles and the tools, getting them to practice it. We don't want you to waste, 35 minutes on the introduction and then not have time to get into the tools.
Right.
However, sometimes an introduction, if you get them in an activity, I like how you have them standing up, moving around the room, talking in groups, like that's all fantastic stuff. And that takes time. And that's going to also take away from your 20 minutes,
Right.
So, but it's valuable time. So as long as when you start doing this more, you're going to realize that there's a balance, and there's things that like, oh wait, I don't need to get into that now because I'm going to get into that later. Or I might use that
I kept having the tools in the back of my head, like, oh man, I should touch on this. And it's like, wait a minute, we're going to do that later.
Yeah.
I was like scanning through my notebook. I was like, I could have done that later.
Yeah, exactly. So that will help you save time too. So I didn't mean to jump in with critique. I just
no.
To 20 minutes, everyone's like, shoot. But I think you spent some time. I have so many pluses. Like I always plus and steal on my sheet. And I have a lot of things that I loved about what you said. Some of them I would rearrange, and I wouldn't say them in the intro. I'd save them. Right. Save them for later, because it's really good stuff, and you almost don't want to overload people. It's like a trailer to a movie. They don't tell you everything, because if they do, you're not going to want to see the movie. So
just wet the whistle a little bit.
Yeah, just let them know, like, who am I? Who is PCA, and why should you be here?
Right.
I mean, that's basically all you need to know. Who am I? Who are you?
It was
why are you here?
I kept as I was putting this stuff together, I kept thinking of what I want my kids to write in a good introduction to an essay. Mm-hmm. And then I kept writing, and I got more and more cards that filled. I was like, I have too many ideas.
You do. Oh, and believe me, I mean, I am the first person to say it's very hard for me to do an introduction in 20 minutes. It's just difficult. I've gotten better at it because there's workshops that, Jake might send you out to, and he might say, you have 50 minutes for the entire workshop.
Right.
And you have to, so then you really have to pick and choose.
Yeah. That's what Pam and I actually mentioned before, like the different lengths of the different presentations, depending on time availability, what organization you're going to. There's just all sorts of different variables that she had to consider when she was putting presentations together.
Right. And I'm just going to keep going, Ruben, and then I'll let you give feedback again. Chris, I think you have such a way about you. You have such confidence, and you have so many coaching examples at your fingertips that I almost think the slides slow you down. Like, I don't want them to be a hindrance, because I want you are talking about PCA. You're talking about all the right things. There's nothing that I put down like, he said that wrong. So I think getting your story to meld with what PCA is talking about is just going to come naturally to you. So don't let the slide order chop it up for you, because I think you have a good flow, and the flow of this is, talking about mastery, talking about emotional tanks, talking about honoring the game. But the more important thing is getting the coaches to receive
engage
it
and stuff. Right.
And so engage, and you have the tools to engage. If you can keep high school kids interested, you can keep coaches interested. So you have the tools to do.
I know I want to see the 7th period.
Yeah, seriously. But I mean, a couple things I really love. I liked how you just had signs made. Like, that is such a simple thing that people that don't teach don't think about. And it's just, you need to have signage. You need to tell people what to do. Specifically, you're going to be fine with facilitating activities, because obviously you've already got that. I like your sense of humor. You have a really dry sense of humor, but it was in a respectful way, and it wasn't making fun of anybody. So, I mean, I'm saying that seriously, because we've heard some people like say some jokes, and I'm like, oh, that just busted on that person. So, you know when to use humor in the right way, and that keeps people's attention too. Just the vocation. I like that, talking about that. I'd like to hear more of your personal story right there. I think in the intro, to get the coaches connected to who you are. It's good to say why you're here, but why are you here? Yeah, you're here because coaching is a vocation. Has it always been that way, or was it a job back then?
Right.
Just a little glimpse into who you are, why you're here. Your introduction sentences that the person are going to read about you is just kind of like facts and figures.
Sure.
So it's nice to be able to say, this is who Chris is, and this is why I coach. And not only this is why I coach, but this is why I feel like it's important for me to be here sharing this with you.
Right.
Like the aha moment. At some point you were like, okay, people need to hear this, and I want to be the one to help them learn this stuff. So just a little bit of that. I'd love to hear more there.
My name's Chris. I'm a recovering negative coach.
Exactly.
I haven't screamed at a referee in 4 years.
There you go. I mean, and that's some of the best. We have 2 trainers, Chris, actually in DC, that you'll meet, that shall remain nameless, but the one was coached by the other one. And the coach, the college coach, is the coach that the other trainer says was her most negative coach. And now she's a PCA trainer. And when I first heard that, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? She was your most negative coach and now she's a trainer? What are we doing? But she's one of the ones that'll get up and say, I coached for 25 years. Only 3 of those years, I was actually an effective coach.
Right.
The other 25, I just had talented players. And like for a Division I level college coach to admit that, I was like, whew, I'm done right there.
This is one of the things I think I've the last 4 to 5 years, not only is the positive coaching thing really hit home with me as far as how I approach the kids, but it's hit home with me as far as the joy I get out of coaching the game. Yeah. Because now it really is a growth. It really is a growth environment where it's like, hey, if my assistant coaches have ideas, that's great. Let's do it. This whole ego of I have to do it my way. Why aren't you doing it my way? I told you to do this the right way and you're screwing it up on the court. You're a dumb player, but I'm a smart coach. That sort of thing is just, it's anybody. I mean, it's just, I don't want to say it's gone because I think we all have an ego, but it's been great for me personally because I think I was reaching a critical point at which coaching was detrimental to my health, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I had a coach one time tell me that after they went to a PCA workshop 4 years ago and literally like changed the way they coached, and they said they have no longer taken Alka-Seltzer after games and they don't need cough drops. And they were realizing as much Alka-Seltzers they were taking after games and as many cough drops as they were going through in a game, there might have been a problem there. And I just thought that's such a positive example. Like if you're having like major heartburn and you can't even speak after a game, that should be telling you something. So I really like that. I love, my favorite part of what you said was at the end of the day, PCA is you. I thought that was really great because PCA is like, okay, this is what we are. We're at Stanford. This is what we did. But it is them. And that's where, I mean, I always get into the alliance part of it, that we're a partnership of coaches. We use the word we, but I like the way you said that. The only thing I would tweak is you said like Jim came up with all these ideas. And I just would, push back a little on that because it wasn't all Jim's ideas. Jim was a good information gatherer and he's a great people connector. So he would connect people, ask people questions. Hey, I want this research. I want this. And we share information. But, I think Jim would be
ideas to come up with
for you to tell him that he came up with it all. But I just wanted to put that tweak in there. I love also how you said keep the individual athlete in mind. I think that's so important. And a lot of coaches, as you said, think about the team. What's a successful team? And if you take a look at it, that is one that I thought you could save for emotional tank.
Sure. Yeah.
Because if you're thinking about each person as an individual, that's going to give you natural tank filling. But if you think of it as a team and a group, that's going to be determined by the most negative player or the most positive player. So I think I would save that for that. Just another little factoid for you. There are 120 National Advisory Board members. And sometimes when I say that to people, you get like a reaction like, wow, 120 of them? Like we're showing you 8. But we've got professional coaches and athletes that are sharing information with us and they're on board with us. So just to put that in there. Okay. And just that, I like the way you were talking about how, the origin of negative coaching is that many of us were just coached the way we were coached. I think really quickly though, it's you kind of spend a little too much time talking about the negativity. Sure. And everybody knows coaches are negative. Everybody's got that. So transition quicker to get to the positive and the benefits of the positivity, which Okay. So that's all I have. Ruben, go ahead.
Okay. Chris, I think you got so much good stuff to share with us. But there's not enough time. So you're going to have to pick your spots, you got great anecdotes, great examples, great humor, great real life experience. You're just going to have to pick and choose, and so that you can keep the interactive part in as you try to make this fit that 20 minutes. We don't want you to now just talk to us for 20 minutes. Don't do that. Keep the interaction. You're going to be great. That opening activity where you had us 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and now get in groups of 3. One thing I think you might consider adding is once we're in that group, have us engage about something. Mm-hmm. Okay. Whether it's, what do you like most about coaching and what do you like least about coaching once you get into your groups of 3? Okay. But have us now, talk to each other once you put us in those groups right out of the gate.
So getting icebreaker kind of thing.
Yeah. Cause you got us up, you got us moving. now get us to talk to each other about anything, you know.
Okay.
Some trainers don't make it about sports. It's tell them, you know, your the favorite place you visited,
Right,
or
yeah,
whatever. But the other thing, so many strengths. One of them was how you handled Kelly's comment when, well, coach told me this morning because it worked, because negativity works.
Mhm.
And I thought you handled that really well, and you used it as an opportunity to make the point that, hey, you know, yeah, maybe it works in the moment, but long term,
Right.
you know. So now I would like you to condense that too.
Okay.
You know, I would like you to, I thought what you shared was right on, and it'll be even stronger and better if you make the same point and just condense it. So,
Okay.
Yeah, Chris, I think I'm liking what I see in you as a trainer can. I'm liking it a lot.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Nick, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I had to jump off at one point to take a call, but so Kelly, I missed a piece of your feedback, so
Okay.
I apologize if I give any repetitive feedback.
That's okay.
So first off, when can you go out? Yeah.
Suddenly my schedule is amazingly free.
There you
That's
go.
your summers. Yeah.
I'm still not happy about that, by the way, but that's okay. Well, that's another story.
Okay, so a couple pieces. I think maybe Ruben touched on it too, but you've got the curse of knowledge. Like I would say many of, but not all of every backstory behind all this research, and you are an expert in the field, so you know it. And I think, like myself, when you know something, you want to share it with people because you want to teach them. So I would agree with pick your spots there.
Right.
And if you feel like you're getting taken down a road with, you know, in deep discussion with the coaches about something, and you want to keep on track, I would suggest you tell them to tell their organization to book you again for another workshop. And we'll be happy to dig deeper into that.
I love it. Marketing. Okay.
Yeah, please. That would really help our budget. I think the only like one piece, and I maybe you guys mentioned it. Sorry again. It's a bit semantical, but national board versus national advisory board. Did somebody mention that yet?
We did not distinguish between the two. So go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, very small, but we do have a national board, which is the Positive Coaching Alliance, which is filled with big donors, basically, and the people that started PCA. And then our national advisory board is this group of 120 coaches, athletes, researchers. Nobody would ever pick up on that, but there's a bit of, and we call them the NAB, right? The National Advisory Board. It's easy way to do it. And then we also have a local chapter board, which is our local donor group too.
Okay.
I think that was about it. I mean, I totally agree with what I heard from the feedback, and it's just phenomenal job. I really liked Kelly's early comment about like, what do you want people to get from this? And I think as you go through these workshops, I mean, what situation am I in here? Get as much information as you can from the partner about what coaches are in there and see what you can deliver to them. But that's it. I'll be quiet. That's all I had.
All right. Thanks, Jake.
Terrific. Well,
Thanks,
just from my viewpoint, I think a lot of this hits home. A lot of this really rings true because there are some similar issues here. I'm a very tangential thinker. So when I get off on a tangent, I like to sort of pursue that thread and then kind of meander my way back to the lecture or to the lesson that we're doing in class. And my department chair tells me all the time, it's like, all right, you got to bring you back on task because so many of these things are so intertwined with one another. You start pulling on a thread and it's like, oh, wait, what about this? What about that? What about that? So no, I appreciate it. And I did get wrapped up in thinking about all the other stuff, and I forgot it was an introduction.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. So, Chris, I offer 2 more opportunities if you'd like to do this. If you feel like, you know what, I think I can sharpen it up and I'd be good with just 1 more. I have no doubt that you are going to be a really effective trainer at all. I think you've got all the pieces in place. It's just a matter of being comfortable enough with the content to know what to leave out and what to put in and when to put in it's just reps. I mean, it really is. It's just practice and reps with what you're doing with it. So I would love to see though what you would do with one of the principles, because our focus in the principle is getting, there's always the why is this principle important and some of the backstory.
Sure.
And then there's the scenario to get the coaches to think about what they're doing. And then there's the tools. And the tools are that's the giveaway. That's what the coaches want to take away. That's why they're here.
Right.
They want to know, what do I do? Give me something to do. So we want to spend a lot of time during the principal portions focusing on the tools and having them really think about it and practice it and try it. And, maybe role play, maybe do an activity, something that will make it really strong for them.
Okay.
So I would love to see you pick one of the tools. And again, if you want to do another practice and then do a final, that's fine. But I don't have any problem with you going right to, doing your final demo for us as one of the tools. And then, I think the best way to get better at this is to get you out there. So let me know when you're available. But again, I've said that to people before and they're like, no, I want to practice an extra time, which is fine with me too. But I just don't want to hold you back if you're like, yeah, get me out. And it sounds like Jake wants to get you out there too.
Yeah, we're coaches, so we're big practice people.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind sitting and running through this again.
Sure, that's fine.
But
Yeah.
just because, I certainly think, parsing a lot of this stuff down into its real basic elements is number one on my list. And then trying to stay on the plan.
I love hearing that because I think that was consistent from all the feedback you got.
Yeah.
That was so I like hearing that you absorbed that, because people don't always absorb the feedback, but you got that key point.
Yeah. All right. So let us know when you're available, and
right.
we'll schedule to do this again soon.
Terrific. Guys,
Thanks, Chris.
so much.
All
Thanks,
right.
Chris.
Thanks,
Thanks
Chris.
Kelly and Ruben. Appreciate
Thanks,
you guys.
Jake. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye-bye.